I chose a Thursday night because the whole town seemed to drift into sleep then, but the quiet only made the fear sharper, like something crawling under my skin. My hands shook so hard I could barely control the door handle. The moment I stepped outside, a cold breeze slipped under my dress, flicking the hem up as if the night itself wanted to expose me. I grabbed the fabric, heart pounding, and hurried toward the car, every step sounding too loud in the stillness. Inside, I sat frozen behind the wheel, breath shivering in my throat as I wrestled with the simple, impossible choice to start the engine. When I finally eased out of the driveway, the streets were hollow, empty houses dark, windows blank, as if the world had been drained of witnesses just for me. I drifted through that darkness, unseen, unreal, a shadow wearing a stolen truth. 45 minutes later, when I slipped back into the house and locked the door, my legs gave out. I slid down the wood, laughing and trembling all at once. I'd done it. I'd stepped into the night as the person I hid from everyone, including myself. For the first time, fear didn't win. I scrubbed off the makeup, stashed the dress and everything else in the box under my bed, and pretended to be asleep when my parents came home. I wasn't, of course. My heart was still racing. By morning, I'd convinced myself everything was normal again. I watched Dad leave for work and helped Mom with breakfast dishes, trying to act like the same kid she'd always known. But she turned and looked at me with this maddeningly calm expression and said, "Did you have a nice time last night, dear?" I barely nodded before she added, in that same soft voice, "You really should let me wash those clothes under your bed, Tyler. They must stink by now." My entire body froze. Before I could sputter out a denial, she marched straight to my room. I followed, teeth clenched, as she pulled out the box and carried it to the kitchen table, where she began inspecting my sad little collection piece by piece. Trash! Also trash! Tyler, honestly? Yellow with navy flowers and black stockings? When have you ever seen a woman do that to herself? By the time she dumped the entire pile in the trash, I could barely breathe. I wanted to disappear, but she just dusted off her hands and said, "Looks like you need someone to help you get a proper wardrobe." Before I could stammer anything, she had me standing straight while she measured every inch of me, jotting notes like a tailor sizing up a client. "If you're going to dress like a girl once in a while, you should learn to do it right. We're going shopping. If you like something, we'll discuss it, but we do this my way." Mom. No buts, Tyler. You're not going to run around looking like a refugee. Go get ready. With Mom, resistance was mostly a theoretical concept. I changed into jeans and a t-shirt, hoping to salvage some dignity, but by the time I returned, she was already grabbing her purse. I asked cautiously what exactly we were buying. She stared at me like I'd asked why water was wet. "A wardrobe for our trip, of course. You silly girl." I sputtered something about just playing, but she shut that down with a look. Then, casually as anything, she dropped the bomb. She and Dad had seen me last night. They were on the corner, watching, making sure. I felt the tears before I could stop them. She saw but didn't flinch. "Don't cry, sweetheart. We don't think it's bad. Just different." Then she guided me toward the car, like this was all perfectly reasonable. On the drive, she explained that she'd known for years, long before I even realized I wasn't hiding as well as I thought. "There are only 3 of us, Tyler. How could we not know?" I stared out the window, stunned, as she kept talking gently, almost warmly. She told me she wanted to help if I'd let her. If I said no, we'd go home, and I'd stop dressing up entirely. But if I said yes, then I had to let her teach me how to do things properly. Clothes, posture, makeup, everything. "Why?" was all I could manage. "Because boys who dress as girls when they're young often continue as they get older. The ones who get caught are usually the ones who never learned how to present themselves. Your father and I would rather you be safe and prepared than terrified and alone." And then the real revelation. For the upcoming 3-week vacation, they intended to bring their daughter with them, which meant I had until then to become her. I had no idea what to say. Inside, the truth pulsed louder than my heartbeat. I didn't just want the clothes or the makeup. I craved the acceptance, the feeling of softness and rightness they gave me. I wanted to be seen, not caught. But out loud, I said nothing, letting the highway swallow the sound as we headed toward whatever waited for me next. I knew I'd follow her lead, because beneath all my fear, a stubborn, shimmering truth kept rising. I wanted this as much as she did. I just couldn't bring myself to say it aloud. Not yet. So I walked behind her through the mall, trying to quiet the thudding in my chest while she navigated the aisles like she'd been preparing for this day for years. The department store swallowed us whole. She went straight for lingerie, checked her list, and plucked 3 packs of cotton panties off the shelf. I pretended to study the racks, letting my fingers glide over smoother, brighter fabrics. When she asked whether I wanted plain white or something else, I surprised myself by choosing color. She nodded, almost proud. A plain white bra came next. Just one for now. Then a half slip, a waist nipper, and a padded panty brief that made my stomach somersault. Those weren't just clothes. They were architectural plans. Junior department next. Skirts, dresses, blouses. She treated the choices like a collaboration, though her list and momentum clearly steered everything. When the cashier finally bagged it all up, I thought we were done. I was wrong. At the shoe store, she had me try on heels. My heels. Me, wobbling under fluorescent lights while she judged fit and posture. I found out I wore a size 8. She bought 4 pairs of heels in different colors, plus flats, without ever asking if I wanted them. My objections dissolved before they ever reached my tongue. Then came the jewelry shop. The sting of the piercing guns was sharp and quick, leaving 2 tiny rhinestone studs glittering back at me. I looked away before the mirror could tell me too much. We were walking toward the exit when she stopped hard. In the window of a store full of fantasy costumes and glossy catalog dreams sat a pair of breast forms. Before I could blink, she'd steered me inside. The saleswoman saw through us instantly, measured me without ceremony, and brought out a pair that looked shockingly real. When she insisted I try them on, I wanted to vanish, but Mom's hand on my back made refusal impossible. In the changing room, I slipped into the new bra, nestled the forms into place, and stared at a version of myself that hit too close to the fantasies I tried not to think about. Mom lit up. I panicked, tore everything off, and nearly fled. She still paid. She made one last stop at a drugstore on the way home, leaving me alone with my thundering thoughts. Back home, my mind tried to retreat into safer identities. Debate kid, music student, shy nobody. But none of those facts could compete with the momentum she'd built. And Mom wasn't finished. "Go to your room and strip," she said as soon as the door shut behind us. My face burned, but she'd crossed into a mode where hesitation wasn't allowed. I stood there, naked and mortified, while she calmly opened a jar of pungent cream and began covering me in it. Arms, legs, chest, under my arms, across my groin, her movements brisk and unfazed. The smell filled the room as she told me to stay still for 30 minutes. They were the longest 30 minutes of my life. My skin prickled, burned, crawled. When she finally released me, I bolted into the shower. As the water hit, hair slid off my body in sheets. Legs, arms, stomach. Everything suddenly pale and bare. I'd never been particularly hairy, but watching it all drain away felt like witnessing a version of myself being washed off tile by tile. Just when I reached for a towel, she poked her head in and told me to wash my hair and shave everywhere else. By the time I walked out, the hot water was gone, and I felt like a peeled peach. Smooth, exposed, different. She handed me a pair of panties. I stepped into them, tucked myself the way she'd shown me earlier in the store, and followed her into her room, heart banging against my ribs. I thought I'd finally get dressed. No. She sat me at her vanity and began brushing my damp hair with slow, deliberate strokes before rolling it into dozens of tight curls. I groaned, but she just smiled, telling me I'd be doing it on my own soon enough. When she finished, She covered it with a plastic cap and announced that it was time for makeup. Under her watchful eye, she made me apply the foundation myself, then powder, then colors that blended on my eyelids far more beautifully than anything I'd tried before. Eyeliner, mascara, blush. My reflection shifting step by step into someone I was terrified to acknowledge, yet couldn't stop staring at. Only when my face was set did she send me to my room to dress. The waist cincher came first. She laced it with a determination that made me gasp. "Beauty has its price," she said, giving one last tug. My waist narrowed noticeably, painfully but undeniably. Then the bra, then the breast forms. The final adjustment made them sit perfectly, filling the silhouette I'd only dared imagine in private. And standing there, breath shallow, skin smooth, hair rolled tight to set, I felt something undeniable settle into place. I wasn't just being changed. I was stepping into someone I'd been trying to meet my whole life. The padded brief hugged my hips and, in an instant, shifted my shape into something startlingly feminine. I stared down at the curve it created, unable to believe how easily my outline had changed. Mom handed me a fresh pair of nude pantyhose, and I sat on the edge of the bed, easing them up my legs, every inch smooth, hairless, unfamiliar. The half-slip settled lightly over them, and then came the skirt, a dark blue pleated one that hit well above my knees. The amount of legs suddenly on display made my stomach flip. The pale pink blouse came next. Short sleeves, a soft neckline, tucked neatly into the waistband. Without needing a hint, I slipped into the navy flats. And just like that, the mirror showed someone else. Someone bright, soft, young. For the first time, I didn't have to imagine her. She was right there, and she was me. Mom removed the plastic cap and began brushing out my hair. The tight curls relaxed into waves that framed my face as she shaped them into a fluffy page boy. She handed me a lipstick, a glossy, deep pink I'd never dare choose on my own, and I swept it across my lips. It transformed me instantly. Then she reached around, fastening a delicate necklace so the pendant rested perfectly between the forms on my chest. A little perfume followed, normally something I avoided, terrified of leaving a trace. But now I spritzed it eagerly, the scent settling over me like a permission slip. "Just a few more things, dear." She opened her jewelry box, placing a gold watch on my wrist and a ring on my finger. When I looked at the mirror again, it wasn't just a reflection. It was the girl I'd built in my imagination piece by piece over the years. And she was finally real. "Shall we wait for your father?" Mom asked. My pulse spiked, but I followed her to the patio anyway, trying not to fidget while the afternoon breeze played with my skirt. "All you need now is a name," she said. "We can't call you Tyler like this." I'd never thought about names before. It had always been a fantasy without labels. She studied me for a moment, then asked softly, "Do you like the name Jamie?" I tasted it silently. Jamie, smooth and light. Then she added, "Jamie Lynn," and the name settled into me like it had been waiting for its cue. I nodded. I became her in that instant. Dad arrived an hour later. Fear crawled up my throat as he looked me over, but all he said was, "You look nice. Ready?" "For what?" "Dinner. I've got a meeting at the lodge later." I panicked. Public, strangers, bright lights. But he was firm. "We've put a lot into helping you be yourself. We'd like you to join us." Mom squeezed my hand. Back in her room, she gave me a purse and told me to freshen my lipstick and change into navy heels. My heart pounded, but I did everything she asked. Dad didn't take us to the lodge, though. He drove us to a quiet Italian restaurant instead. Crossing the parking lot, the sway of my skirt and the soft bounce on my chest felt surreal and strangely intoxicating. The breeze against my legs was a new kind of awareness. Light, fluttery, familiar, and foreign all at once. And with my parents beside me, I felt shielded, almost brave. Inside, no one stared. No whispers, no pointing. No harsh voice calling me out. Just a family walking in. A man, his wife, and their daughter. I clung to that illusion until it started to feel real. Dinner was effortless. For the first time, I wasn't playing at femininity. I was simply living in it. We even told Dad my new name, and he smiled and said it suited me. Afterward, we dropped him at the lodge, and Mom and I went home, settling in to watch TV. Less than an hour later, her friend Marcy showed up. I shot halfway out of my chair before Mom froze me in place with a single sentence. "You're in your own home, Jamie Lynn. You can dress however you like." It felt like a decree. Absolute. Irreversible. I sat back down, nails digging into my skirt, as Marcy walked in. She greeted me with a polite smile and immediately asked Mom if she wanted to go to bingo. Then she turned to me. "Jamie, would you like to join us?" Mom answered for me, "Of course." A moment later, we were in her car. "Jamie," Marcy said, peering at me through the rearview mirror. "You look familiar. Are you related to Bob and Jenna?" "Yes, ma'am," I said quickly, praying she wouldn't dig deeper. Thankfully, she didn't. At the hall, we took our seats with a stack of bingo cards. I wasn't even close to winning anything until the jackpot round. Then, by some miracle, I got bingo in 8 calls. They handed me $300 in front of everyone. That's when I saw her. Kara White, a girl from school. My stomach flipped. I avoided her gaze until I couldn't. When we stepped away later to get sodas, she came straight toward me. "I know you," she said. "You're Jamie," I cut in, fast, hoping my voice wouldn't crack. She blinked once, recalibrated, then smiled. "Of course. Jamie, nice to see you again." Her eyes flicked over me, slow and deliberate, and she didn't look disgusted or confused. She looked interested. Before I could react, she said, "Maybe I'll stop by tomorrow, around noon?" And walked off without waiting for an answer. Mom looked thrilled. I felt doomed. Back home, I borrowed the car to pick up Dad from the lodge, then dragged myself to my room. I scrubbed off the makeup, slipped into the nightgown Mom handed me, and collapsed into bed. Morning came too soon. I shuffled into the kitchen without fully waking. Mom told me I'd done wonderfully. "When Kara talked to you, I was proud. Giving her your girl name was brave. It means you're serious." "I just didn't want her yelling my real name," I muttered. "And Mrs. Wyans didn't know, so why tell her anything?" Mom gave me a cunning smile. "Marcy knew the whole time, dear." Then she dropped the real bomb. "Kara will be here at noon. Let's get you ready." I was finished. Absolutely finished. But Saturday was warm, and Mom suggested shorts, pink ones. I showered, shaved, and dressed myself piece by piece. Pink panties, careful tuck, padded brief, bra, forms. Then I went to her room to do my makeup, the routine already sinking into me like a second language. Mom wasn't hovering this time, so I worked through the steps myself. It wasn't perfect, but it was close enough to make me feel confident. I skipped the heavier eye makeup and stuck to blush and pink lipstick, adding a quick mist of perfume before heading back to my room. Socks, sneakers, done. Until Mom appeared with one of her tops in her hands. "This will be cooler, Jamie, and it matches the shorts." It was a ribbed white top, soft and fitted. I pulled it on, reached to tuck it in, and she immediately stopped me. "It's meant to hang loose." I checked the mirror. The pink shorts, already on the short side for Mom, barely covered me. I could see a hint of my backside if I turned just right. Mom giggled like it was all part of the fun and sent me downstairs to wait. Dad saw me and just shook his head, more startled than upset. Mom joined us, had me sit, and immediately started fussing with my hair, pulling the sides back with 2 pink and white barrettes, trimming my bangs, spritzing everything into place. While waiting for Kara, I helped Mom clean up and do the dishes, falling into the old rhythm we always had together. Except now, I kept catching my reflection in the oven door, seeing a girl rinsing plates, not a boy pretending to. I was outside when Kara arrived. She followed Mom through the back door and paused when she saw me. A little cough, a surprised blink. I stood. Hi. Hi, Kara. She sat across from me, studying me with a new kind of attention. You've changed, she said softly. If I'd known you liked to change, we could have been close ages ago, Jamie. I froze. I'd expected confusion, maybe disgust, anything but this calm acceptance. She explained before I could ask. Her brother used to dress up too. Sometimes they even went out together as girls. He'd passed away in an accident, and she'd missed the closeness. Jack did all that? I asked, stunned. Jackie, she corrected gently. She had great legs. Someone was always hitting on her. Then she said something that made my ears burn. I think you will too, especially with those legs. I blushed so hard it hurt. She asked how many times I'd gone out, and I panicked, too embarrassed to admit I'd snuck out before, so I told her last night was my first. Well, you looked great, she said. There's a dance at St. Mark's tonight at 7:30. Want to go? Instinct screamed no, but Kara was persistent and convincing. Before I knew it, she'd declared she'd pick me up at 7, told me to wear a nice skirt and blouse, and left. Kara was one of those quiet, overlooked girls. Smart, not flashy, not chased by the jocks. I'd always seen her on the sidelines of school events, the same place I usually hid. Now she was the person dragging me toward the center of the room. Mom was delighted. It'll be good for you. You need to learn to be around boys your age, and Kara can help. I retreated to my room to think about what to wear, settling on the black chemise dress I loved. I even called Kara to ask her to wear a dress too. She agreed instantly, like she'd been waiting for me to ask. By 4:30, I was pacing grooves into the carpet until Mom finally told me to start getting ready. I spent nearly an hour shaving, checking every inch of myself for stray hair, washing, then checking again. When I returned to my room, Mom handed me a box of body powder to finish the final prep. Once powdered and clean, I opened my drawers, grabbed my black panties, tucked, and then tried tackling my hair with the magazine guide in hand. The rollers nearly made me lose my mind. Finally, I called Mom. She walked in, smiling knowingly, and in minutes had me rolling my hair like I'd been doing it for years. By the time she sprayed it and capped it, I felt oddly proud. Makeup next. Only this time I made bolder choices. Light gray shadow, black eyeliner, mascara that lengthened my lashes dramatically. Rose blush to soften everything. When I finished, my reflection didn't just look feminine, it looked polished. Then I found the surprise on my bed. Mom had swapped out my waist cincher for something far more intense. Mom? I held up the satin and lace garment. She came in with a little sparkle in her eye. It's a corselet, Jamie. I haven't worn it in years. You might fit it. She wrapped it around me, had me fasten the hooks, zip the front, and then she pulled the laces tight. Then tighter. Then tight. My waist shrank dramatically, while the built-in cups lifted and shaped my chest. She reached into the cups, gently adjusting me upward and inward, creating a natural curve, then added small padding inserts underneath. I stared at the mirror, stunned. The sleek satin hugged me perfectly. The padded brief curved my hips. I looked like a girl getting ready for a dance. A girl who belonged in that dress. I pulled on pantyhose, and Mom helped me slip into the chemise. The black fabric hugged every contour, swelling over my chest before tapering at the waist and flaring at the hips. The hem sat 3 inches above my knees, swishing gently when I moved. The sleeves rested midway between shoulders and elbows. And for a moment, just a moment, I forgot to be scared. I forgot Tyler entirely. All I saw was Jamie, ready for her first dance. I slipped into the new black heels, feeling that instant shift in posture they forced, hips tilting, back straightening, every movement suddenly measured and graceful. Mom took me to her jewelry box and chose pieces with the precision of someone assembling a final, perfect detail. gold and black drop earrings, a choker that sat close to my throat, the same gold watch, and one of her cocktail rings. She spritzed her best perfume into my hands, and I dabbed it on wrists, inside elbows, along my neck, each touch making me feel a little more complete. Then I drew on soft red lipstick, the color warming my whole face. I was about to leave when she stopped me with a black clutch purse. Inside was a brand new wallet. "You'll need a girl's wallet, Jamie." I hugged her, hard. In my room, I moved everything into the new wallet, then slid in the ID card I'd made the night before. My student ID scanned, edited, printed, now reading Jamie Lynn Benson. A tiny piece of plastic, but it felt like a declaration. Kara arrived early, 6 on the dot, and I barely recognized her. She'd done her auburn hair into a perfect flip, and her makeup elevated her entire face. Those green eyes practically glowed. Her dark green sheath dress was short, elegant, and showed off her legs almost as much as mine. Even Mom gasped, "You two will be the hit of the dance." That was the last thing I wanted. But Kara's whistle, "Damn, girl, you look terrific," softened the panic twisting in my stomach. She wasn't just being polite. She looked genuinely impressed. "It's just a little corset and foam rubber," I joked, though we both knew that wasn't the whole truth. Walking across the parking lot, my nerves spiked. I nearly turned around, but Kara clamped onto my arm and wouldn't let go. Inside, the hall was filling quickly. Familiar faces trickled in, each one ratcheting my fear higher. But Kara kept whispering reassurance. "You look great, Jamie. Just keep your movements light. You've got this." When the music started, a few couples drifted toward the dance floor. I tried to disappear into my chair. Then, a hand landed on my arm. "Would you like to dance?" I turned and nearly fainted. Mark Stevens. Tall, athletic, school hero, golden boy. Kara blurted, "Aren't you here with Paige?" "We broke up," he said easily, then looked right at me. His hand guided me up before I could think. 3 dances later, I was still floating. He walked me back to the table, grinning at Kara. "Where'd you hide her, Kara? I don't miss pretty girls." I don't know which part stunned me more, him flirting or me responding. When he kissed my hand before walking away, Kara broke into giggles. I joined her when I could breathe again. "He's kind of cute, isn't he?" I admitted. Later, she disappeared with Grant Connors, who'd crushed on her for years. Watching them blend into the crowd felt unreal. The whole night felt unreal. Mark returned and sat across from me. "So, Jamie, where have you been hiding all my life?" It was cheesy, but I shot back without thinking. "I've been here, Mark. Maybe you just weren't looking." His smile deepened, and he asked me to dance again. Standing beside him, 8 inches shorter, my head resting against his chest, something dangerous and warm unfurled inside me. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't understand it. But I liked it. Kara and Grant reappeared long enough for Kara to announce they were leaving together. "We, have other plans." I knew exactly what that meant. Mark offered to take me home, but I reminded him I'd driven. "Maybe next time," he quipped, almost effortlessly charming. When I finally crawled into bed, the memory of his arms around me kept replaying. Soft, sure, protective. I wasn't gay. I knew that. But being held like that, it had felt right. Too right. The next morning, I told Mom everything. "It scares me," I whispered. "I'm not gay." "I believe you," she said gently. "But you're a very pretty girl, Jamie, and you behaved like one last night." He reacted like a normal boy would, that's all. But nothing. You liked it. That's what scares you." She was right. I didn't argue. I wore the pink shorts again and spent the morning helping her clean the house. After lunch, Kara called, saying she'd swing by. I panicked. No makeup, hair messy, shirt dirty. Kara didn't care. She sat with me on the patio and cut right to the point. "Mark asked about you today. Grant says he wants to get to know you better. Maybe call you for a date." "Great," I muttered. A guy dating a guy in a dress. Perfect. Kara only giggled. Grant said Mark asked me to feel you out about a double date next Saturday. No way, I blurted. Too fast, too defensive. Jamie, she said, leaning in. I saw your face last night. You loved the way he held you. I had no defense for that. None. Kara stood, smirking. He's calling tonight. Decide what you want. If yes, suggest a double date. She left me sitting there with my heartbeat in my throat and the sinking realization that I was going to say yes. Mark called at 7. His voice made my stomach flip. I agreed, but only if we doubled with Kara and Grant. He didn't like it, but he said yes. It took me 2 whole days to tell Mom, though she clearly already knew. Going back to school as my boy self was torture, especially seeing Mark strut around bragging about the new girl he planned to charm next. And knowing that girl was me, Mark thought he ruled the world. Honestly, most of the jocks did, swaggering around school like every hallway was their personal kingdom, and girls should faint from gratitude if they so much as nodded in their direction. It was one of the reasons I'd never liked that part of school culture. Mom just laughed when I complained. Boys like to think they're in charge, dear. Women know better. We set the pace. What's allowed, what isn't, how far a date goes, when it ends. And if we're clever, they never realize we're the ones steering. It was oddly comforting, empowering even. The week crawled by, but Friday finally came. After school, I went straight to my room, did my hair and light makeup, then put on a bra and blouse so Mom could take another picture with Dad's new digital camera. Once it was uploaded, I edited my ID again. This time, my school ID and driver's license, both now proudly showing Jamie Lynn Benson, 16, 5'7", female. I printed them, slipped them into my wallet, then changed into shorts. For the date, I dressed simply. Pleated skirt, blouse, a light sweater, nylons, flats. Mom handed me another lesson. Some men get weird when a girl is unavailable. Wear a pad. It keeps hands respectful. I looked at her like she'd just confessed to being from another planet, but she insisted and helped me secure it. It felt bulky at first, but after a while, I barely noticed it. Mark was pushy all night, leaning in whenever he could, but he didn't cross the line. Not until Grant drove us to the park and the world shrank to the dim glow of headlights on the water. He leaned in first, soft, warm, unexpectedly gentle. The first kiss shocked me with how good it felt. Then the second kiss melted me, and the third. His breath in my ear was enough to make my legs go weak, but when his hand slid onto my thigh, I stopped him immediately. He tried once, breathing hard, but backed off when I didn't budge. Afterward, the guys dropped Kara and me off. She was staying over, her parents were out of town, and for a moment, I imagined the two of us whispering in my room all night. Instead, Mom assigned her the spare room. Fantasy crushed. The next month passed in a strange blur. 2 more dates with Mark. A quiet acceptance from the other girls who'd figured me out. A growing confidence whenever I stepped into that softer version of myself. Then, on a Tuesday night, Mark asked me to prom. Prom. I nearly dropped the phone. Prom meant money, expectations, memories, and pressures I wasn't sure I was ready for. At dinner, I told my parents. Dad nearly swallowed his fork. We let you dress, okay? Go out a few times, okay? A boy? Twice? Okay. But the prom? Mom cut in gently. Harold, we encouraged him to experience this. The prom is a milestone, especially for girls. We can't forbid it now. Dad muttered something about a decent dress and surrendered. I wasn't sure which terrified me more, buying prom clothes or remembering how good Mark's kiss had felt. Every day after school that week, Mom dragged me dress shopping. I had no idea it could be so exhausting. Wrong sizes, wrong cuts, wrong colors, wrong everything. Until we found the dress. A red cocktail dress with a sweetheart neckline, fitted bodice, and petticoats under the skirt. Bold, flirty, stunning. Dad was going to have a heart attack. Mom bought it on the spot. Then came red patent heels, a matching clutch, a rhinestone jewelry set, a sparkling belt, and finally measurements for a custom red and white corselet, and red satin panties. Because, of course, the night before prom, Mom revealed the final surprise: a salon appointment. Women treat themselves before special occasions, Jamie. Relax and enjoy it. So the next morning, I walked into the salon in a skirt and blouse and met Margie, Mom's stylist. "So you're Jamie," she said warmly. "I've heard all about you." That didn't shock me anymore. Nothing about this transformation surprised me the way it once had. We picked a style together. She washed my hair, lightened it a shade, added auburn highlights. Then out came the rollers. While she worked, Debbie the manicurist appeared and took my hands. I wasn't even paying attention until I looked down and saw 10 long, bright red acrylic nails. When they finished, I hardly recognized the girl in the mirror. The hair was high and soft on top, ringlets framing my face, curls cascading in the back. The nails gleamed like candy apples. Mom, under her dryer, just smiled at me. At home, she explained the nails were semi-permanent. "We're going on vacation right after prom. You'll be Jamie the whole time, maybe the whole summer. So why not?" Why not indeed? I spent that afternoon removing every last stray hair, then bathing and powdering myself. The red satin panties slid up my legs like a whisper. Mom said I wouldn't need the padded brief tonight. Mysterious but reassuring. I sat at my makeshift vanity, trying to apply makeup with long nails. It was awkward, delicate, slow. I stabbed myself twice, but eventually got it right. And the girl staring back at me? She wasn't pretending anymore. I went heavier on the drama that night. Deep green, fading into smoky gray, a streak of silver along the crease, and thicker black eyeliner that made my eyes look twice as wide. I had just picked up the corselet when Mom appeared in the doorway. "I'll have to help with that one, Jamie. It's a bit smaller than the one you're used to." "Bit" was generous. She tugged, and I gasped through every breath. But by the time she finished lacing, the miracle had already happened. I didn't need padding anywhere. My chest filled the built-in cups without the help of foam inserts, and somehow, defying every law of nature, my waist had cinched down to 23 inches. I could barely breathe, but after a minute or two, the pain cooled into an electric awareness of my whole body's new shape. Mom handed me nylons instead of pantyhose, and I eased them on carefully, savoring the glide up my legs. She slipped the garters under my panties, fastening each tab tight. "You need your panties on top," she explained. "Otherwise the bathroom becomes an Olympic event." Once the dress settled over me and she zipped it up, I nearly stopped breathing again. The neckline showcased every inch of the cleavage the corselet had sculpted, and the fabric hugged my body with scary, perfect precision. I sat on the bed to buckle my heels, fighting straps and long nails, while Mom watched with a grin. "You'll get the hang of it. Every girl does." Jewelry followed. Gold and black earrings, a matching choker, a ring, a shimmering dust of perfume Dad had given me. I even dabbed a little high on my thighs, the way Mom said real glamour girls did. When I finally painted on the bright red lipstick, the transformation snapped into focus. The mirror didn't show a boy in a dress. It showed a girl who knew she looked good. Not pretend good, not almost good. Good. Mark arrived right on time, and Dad insisted I make an entrance. So I did, one slow step at a time down the stairs. Both of them froze. Dad looked like someone had hit his brain with a shovel. Mark's eyes widened in a way that made my stomach flip in a way I didn't want to examine too closely. Dad snapped pictures of us like it was a wedding. Then we left. The corsage on my wrist smelled like fresh flowers, mixing with my perfume until the whole car felt warm and sweet. Mark held my arm as we walked into the hall, and I spotted Kara and Grant heading toward us. Kara looked incredible in white, glowing under the lights. "Jamie," she whispered, "you could have warned us. You're stealing the whole show." I gave her a little curtsy and followed Mark to our table. His friends, Dale, Ben, Sean, were already there with their very polished, very elite dates. And with them, unfortunately, came Megan, the self-proclaimed queen, the reigning empress of mean. She started almost immediately, commenting on girls' dresses, their dates, their families, their future prospects, like she was the admissions judge of the universe, and we were all on probation. I kept quiet. I had to. Being discovered here would have been apocalypse tier. But she kept going. And going. And when she finally aimed her attention at me, I felt the temperature drop. "So where do you go to school?" Mom had trained me for that one. "A private East Coast academy," I said breezily. "Oh?" Megan leaned in. "Because Mark said you live at Ty Benson's house, and there's a rumor going around that you're actually Ty in drag." I smiled sweetly. "Do I look like a guy in drag?" She hesitated. And that was my opening. "You know, Megan, I heard you're the queen of this place, but I don't get it. You wear fancy clothes and act like money gives you the right to tear people down. You insult girls you don't even know just because their parents work for a living. Honestly, bitch is too small a word for how you behave. It's accurate, but small." Silence swallowed the table. Her face went red, then purple, then volcanic. She exploded, screaming until the chaperones hurried over and escorted her out, screeching indignation every step of the way. Half the hall clapped. Dale stood there like a man who'd just watched his fiancée vaporize. Mark squeezed my hand under the table. "You just defeated a dragon," he whispered. "A nasty one," Kara added from behind us. My hands were still shaking, so Mark led me outside to the patio. "Jamie," he said softly, "you realize every kid in there has dreamed of shutting her up. You're a hero tonight." But then his eyes changed. Serious, curious, too sharp. "She was right about one thing," he said quietly. "You live at Ty's house, and I know he's an only child. Tonight you called Mrs. Benson Mom. That means you're Ty, right?" It was like being pinned to a display board. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. If I denied it, I'd have to disappear. If I admitted it, I risked everything. He held my hand. I looked into his eyes. He already knew. "Yes," I whispered. "I'm Ty. I'm sorry, I didn't mean—" "Let me guess." He smiled, not cruelly. "You liked dressing as a girl and it got ahead of you." I nodded. He guided me to a table and sat beside me. "Jamie, we've known each other since grade school, and I had no idea. None. But look at you. You look incredible. My sister would kill for your figure." Then he did something I wasn't prepared for. He leaned forward and kissed me, soft, certain, knowing exactly what he was doing. I froze, shocked, speechless. "Jamie," he murmured, "you're my date tonight. You look like a girl, act like a girl, and honestly, I like you. Why shouldn't I kiss you?" I didn't have an answer. I just leaned against him, relieved that I hadn't lost him. Not as a friend, maybe not even as something more. When we finally stood up, he slipped something into my hand. His ring, a promise ring. "Mark, no, I can't. Who knows besides me, you and your parents?" "Kara," I whispered. He just smiled. "Then keep it for now." And for the first time that night, I felt something even scarier than fear. I felt wanted. "It'll drive Megan crazy," Mark whispered, smoothing his thumb over my knuckles. "And if she thinks we're a couple now, she'll be a lot more careful about trashing you. She won't want to look jealous." For someone I'd underestimated for years, he was proving to be a far better man than half the boys at school combined. He didn't flinch, didn't make excuses, didn't run. He accepted me because I mattered to him, because I was his friend, and maybe because I lit something up in him he didn't quite know how to name. Kara and Grant caught up with us just as we sat. "Come on, Jamie. Powder room break." She didn't ask. She just grabbed my hand and pulled me up. "That was legendary," she said, as the bathroom door closed behind us. "You put her in her place so hard, she practically fell through the floor." I opened my palm and showed her Mark's ring. Her gasp echoed off the tiles. No way! He gave it to you? After knowing the truth? I nodded. Her grin widened into something wicked. Oh, when Megan finds out, she'll burn hotter than the sun. After the prom, Mark took me to a small restaurant for dessert, then drove to Promontory Point. The windows fogged almost instantly. Jamie, he said quietly, I know you're Thai. I don't care. You're amazing like this. He didn't wait for permission. He pulled me close and kissed me slow, certain, like he'd been thinking about it all night. My pulse tripped over itself, and when I felt his hand slide along my thigh, I didn't stop him. I shifted slightly, giving him easier access without letting myself think about what it meant. His tongue met mine, and the rest of the world vanished. Then his hand guided mine toward his lap. And reality slapped me back. If I touched him, really touched him, what then? Would he brag? Would he slip? Would I become a joke in the locker room? My fantasy begged for one thing. My common sense begged for another. I pulled my hand back. He didn't push, didn't pressure. He just kissed me again, softer this time, with his palm warm against my stomach. We drove home an hour later, and when I stepped inside the house, I was floating. Not because I'd passed for a girl, but because I'd been seen as one and wanted as one. The next morning, wearing a nightgown and clutching a mug of coffee, I tried to make sense of everything. Mom was out, so I changed into jeans and a top, fixed my hair, added light makeup, and hung Mark's ring on a gold chain around my neck. Mom spotted it the instant she walked in, like a hawk zeroing in on prey. He wanted me to have it, I said simply. She motioned for me to sit. I assume you had a wonderful time? I nodded. Is there anything I should know? He knows I'm not a girl. Her jaw dropped, then she burst into laughter, the kind that leaves tears in the corners of your eyes. Oh, your father is not going to survive this. She pressed about the prom, about Megan, about the point. I told her most of it, carefully avoiding the details she didn't want to hear anyway. Don't tell your father, she warned. We all know what boys go to the point for, so does he. And he can add, prom night, a pretty girl, a quiet spot. You see the equation. Are you sure you have nothing else to tell me? I'm okay, Mom. Really? Later that afternoon, Mark came over, and the three of us sat on the patio sipping sodas like we were some sitcom family. Jamie tells me you know her secret, Mom said, and you still gave her your ring. Why? Because I like her, Mark said without hesitation, and I'm happier when she's around. Mom opened her mouth, but he cut her off, voice steady. None of the other girls I date ever do anything serious either, so why would that bother me here? He had her cornered, and she knew it. You keep that secret, Michael, or I'll be very unhappy. That was Mom speak, for I will personally call your mother and end your life. Not a chance, he said. Jamie is my girl. Only she or I change that. He passed without a single misstep. Dad, seeing the ring, looked ready to lecture, but Mom cut him off. It's a milestone for every girl, Harold. She's no different. Dad blinked twice, sighed like a defeated man, and moved on. On Monday, we left for vacation, just the three of us. Theme parks, long drives, endless laughter. 2 weeks of being Jamie without hiding. When we got home, Mark and I went out again, and the day after that, I started job hunting. There was an ad for an office assistant, someone to manage databases and membership lists. Perfect for me. I wore Mom's best suit, her pink blazer and straight black skirt, with a white blouse and my neatest heels. I should use your real name, Mom insisted. They'll check your social security number anyway. I hated it, but she was right. The next morning, full makeup, perfect hair, and the biggest smile I could manage, I walked into the building. They ushered me into a plush office where a striking woman introduced herself as Vanessa Blake. She looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Glossy black hair, green eyes, tailored yellow suit, confidence radiating off her like perfume. "So," she said, scanning my resume, "you're applying for the new office position." "Yes, ma'am." She nodded, flipped the page, then looked up at me with a slow, knowing smile. "It says here your name is Tyler Benson." She didn't sound surprised. She sounded intrigued. "I never would have guessed," Vanessa murmured, flipping through my resume with a look that was almost amused. "You're clearly qualified, even more than most applicants, but our clients expect a fully female staff. They discuss intimate matters, sometimes deeply personal ones, and they need to feel absolutely secure." My stomach dropped. I pushed my chair back to stand, ready to thank her for the opportunity, when she lifted her hand. "Sit." Her voice wasn't harsh, just firm enough to freeze me in place. "There might be a solution," she continued. "Your skills impress me. Your grades, your computer work. I want you here. But we'd need to address a few impediments." I blinked. "But you just said if clients knew a male, they won't," she said simply. "So, if you decide to commit fully to presenting as female, we can help you refine that presentation. Professionally, safely, thoughtfully. We transform women every day. You would be no different." I must have looked stunned because she chuckled softly. "Close your mouth, sweetheart." The offer hit me like a wave, a fantasy I'd never dared imagine touching the real world. "Can you tell me what you'd do?" I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. And she did. Not as cold procedures, not as surgeries, but as a blend of styling, contouring, medical-grade aesthetics, and wearable enhancements that created a lasting but reversible illusion of femininity. A way to align my outer appearance with the identity I had been fumbling toward for years. When she finished, I could barely speak. She let me call Mom. I expected shock, maybe fear. Instead, Mom exhaled like someone receiving long-awaited news. "It'll be good," she said, "to have Jamie as my daughter for real." Vanessa explained that because I was 17, consent had to come from both parents. Signatures, a formal agreement, a pause before crossing the threshold. That night, I told my parents everything, what Vanessa suggested, what it meant, and how desperately I wanted it. "I'm never going back," I said softly. "We all know that. I want to be the girl I feel like." Mom agreed instantly. Dad, slower, quieter, eventually nodded. The next morning, Mom and I walked back into Vanessa's office at 8 sharp. Vanessa reviewed everything again, every step, its purpose, and its limits. Mom asked questions, none of them about if I should do this, only how. She signed the papers. I countersigned. When I filled out the job application and paused at the name line, I asked which one to use. "Your feminine name," Vanessa said. So I wrote it. Jamie Lynn Benson, age 17. Mom was escorted out. Vanessa led me deeper inside to a private clinic wing I hadn't noticed before. "Robe on," she said gently. "I'll be waiting." The moment I joined her, she handed me over to a composed woman with warm eyes and a professional calm. "This is Dr. Marie Denton." A doctor. An actual doctor. "We evaluate every client thoroughly," she explained, "to determine what is safe, healthy, and suitable. Everything we do is reversible except one small cosmetic adjustment, and even that won't matter unless you pursue a full transition someday." Her tone was soft, reassuring. She wasn't transforming me. She was sculpting an illusion, aligning my body with the image I'd always carried. The exam was detailed but respectful. Measurements, health checks, assessments of what enhancements would best match my build. When she explained the more intimate visual adjustments, it wasn't clinical and cold. It was practical, gentle, tailored to help my presentation match the identity I wanted others to see. Hours later, after aesthetic shaping, after wearable enhancements fitted to my chest, after meticulous checks, I returned to Vanessa wrapped in a new sense of myself. Not a different person, just externally aligned with the version of me I was finally letting breathe. "She'll be a wonderful addition to the staff," Dr. Denton said, before disappearing back to her office. Vanessa smiled. "You'll need a few days to adjust. Heal. Learn your new center of balance. Come back Monday, 8 sharp." Then she handed me a check. "Starter funds. You and your mother should get the wardrobe you'll need. We'll deduct it gradually from your pay." It wasn't just a job. It was a doorway. A clinic staffer drove me home. Mom was waiting at the door, eyes wide with curiosity. "How do you feel?" she asked. "A little numb," I admitted. "But, right." And when I used the bathroom later, when I saw myself in the mirror, bandaged but unmistakably Jamie, there was no pain and no fear, just a quiet, stunned relief. Mom helped me change the bandages, talking me through each step, and by afternoon, she switched me from the heavier dressing to a pad, showing me how to wear it comfortably and discreetly. It felt natural, strange, wonderful, terrifying, but most of all, it felt like moving forward, the real beginning. My skin felt impossibly smooth, softer than it had ever been, and even the faint reminders of what I'd just been through made me smile. I rubbed in a lightly scented lotion until my whole body felt warm, supple, alive. Then I slipped into a nightgown and let exhaustion pull me under. 4 mornings later, Mom shook me awake with that bright, purposeful tone that always meant she had a plan. "Skirt and blouse today, Jamie. Quick breakfast, then shopping." In the bathroom, my reflection looked almost healed, and dressing felt strangely natural now, as if my body finally matched the motions I'd practiced for months. We drove to a huge department store, straight to lingerie, where Mom began loading my arms with delicate fabrics, another dozen panties, soft slips, bras I actually got to try on, a 36B. Seeing myself in the mirror, shaped and lifted, made my breath catch. I chose white, peach, black. Nightgowns next, 3 of them, including a pale blue baby doll that made my cheeks heat just picking it up. Dresses followed, then skirts and suits, professional, pretty, stylish. Mom insisted on suits. I ended up with 3. Pink. White trimmed in navy. A sleek black one that made me stand straighter just wearing it. Shoes followed, of course. Heels, flats, colors I'd only admired on other women. By the time we reached the car, our arms were full of bags, the literal weight of a new life. Then Mom glanced toward the salon. "Hair and nails, Jamie?" I didn't even hesitate. Margie welcomed me back like an old friend. I told her about the office job and wanting a polished, confident look. Together, we found the perfect cut, layered, softly curled, professional with a hint of playfulness. She lightened my hair another shade, shaped it into something that framed my face beautifully. My nails were repaired and painted a deep plum that felt grown-up and elegant. When I walked out of the salon wearing one of my new dresses and black heels, I felt the phrase "new woman" settle into place somewhere deep inside me. At home, Mom and I ate dinner, then quietly, joyfully, removed the last of my old clothes from the closet. My reflection kept pulling my eyes back, smooth skin, soft curves, bright eyes, until later that night, when an uncomfortable itch made me call Mom. She checked me over with the practiced calm of a woman who's seen everything, then sat me down and gently walked me through the basics of feminine hygiene. Embarrassing, yes, but oddly comforting too, like an initiation into a club I'd long stared at from the outside. I slipped into my pale blue baby doll and curled up beside Mom on the couch, watching television with a peace I hadn't felt in years. That night, I laid out my outfit for my first real day of work. After removing any stray hair with cream and taking a warm shower, I fell asleep wrapped in anticipation. Morning came with butterflies. I pulled on clean panties and sat at the vanity. Foundation, powder, soft colors. My peach demi-cup bra shaped me perfectly. Pantyhose slid over my legs like a whisper, and I shivered at the sensation. The padded panty brief smoothed my lines, and I stepped into the pink suit I'd chosen. White blouse with lace at the neckline, short sleeves, white shoes to match. White jewelry, gold watch, soft red lipstick, a touch of perfume. I slipped my new ID, into my wallet, added a pad, my lipstick, a brush. Keys in hand, heart racing, I walked out the door toward my future. At the office, Vanessa received me with a long, approving gaze. "You look wonderful, Jamie. More polished than half the women who come through here." The pride that bloomed in my chest almost knocked me over. She sent me to Dr. Marie, who removed the last of my stitches and declared me ready. "Come Wednesday at 4, she added. "One final touch." I didn't know what that meant, but the confidence in her voice reassured me. Back in the office, I was given a small but comfortable room and access to the filing system. It was chaos, a digital labyrinth of misfiled records and lost billing data. By lunch, I had a plan to fix it, but it would require new equipment and software. When I asked Vanessa, she simply said, "Order what you need." So I did. That night, I drove to Kara's, eager to tell her everything. She squealed when I admitted I had my own curves now. She asked to see, and I let her, laughing at her wide-eyed reaction. "I know one boy who's going to be very, very happy," she teased. Later, we found Mark. He greeted me with a kiss, and when I whispered the news to him, his grin gave everything away. Kara smirked knowingly. "Saturday at 7?" he asked. 7, I agreed. And just like that, life settled into something I never expected. Routine in heels. Work filled my mind. The way people saw me shifted effortlessly. I stopped thinking about being a woman and simply was, letting the days shape me as much as I shaped them. Everything felt possible now. On Wednesday at 4 sharp, I returned to Marie's office, expecting something small, maybe routine. She asked me to lie back, my head resting in a cushioned brace. "This will take care of your beard permanently, Jamie," she said calmly. "It's the only step we can't undo. Close your eyes." A soft pad covered my eyelids. A faint warmth buzzed across my skin, accompanied by the distant crackle of ozone. In less than an hour, it was over. When I touched my face, there was no roughness, no shadow, just smooth skin. One more piece of the old me had quietly slipped away. By Friday, I'd settled fully into the rhythm of the salon, and the other girls, Michelle especially, pulled me into their orbit. "Stars tonight," she sang. "You're coming, right? Cute boys everywhere." I hadn't been out since my transformation, not as the woman I looked like now, but the invitation tugged hard at something inside me. I told her I'd check with home. Mom encouraged it instantly. "Go have fun, you deserve it." Michelle squealed when I said yes. "What do people wear there?" "Something short or sexy, honey." "Preferably both." I asked if I could bring my best friend. "Absolutely. The more girls, the better." Driving home, I already knew exactly which outfit was meant for this night. The one I'd bought half jokingly, half dreamingly, convinced I'd never dare to wear it in public. But after everything I had become, the idea thrilled me. Dinner was quick. Then I showered, towel-dried, and began crafting myself for a night I'd never forget. I called Kara. She'd join me. I started with satin lingerie in deep red, then the matching corselet that shaped my waist and lifted my chest in a way that felt mischievous and deliciously brave. My makeup came next, mastered now. Warm tones, defined liner, a glow across my cheeks. Pulling the corselet tight, I watched my reflection change into someone who belonged in a nightclub. Confident, magnetic, alive. Pantyhose slid up my legs with a silky hush. Then the dress, fire engine red, short, clinging everywhere it should. The neckline showcased curves I'd only dreamed of months ago. I styled my hair higher, looser, more daring. Perfume, heels, jewelry, each detail sealing a different version of me into place. When I clicked across the floor in red patent spikes, my father actually gasped. Mom only raised a brow. "Hunting?" she teased. "Maybe," I said, unable to hide the grin. Michelle arrived with Cheryl and Karen, each dressed to match the energy of the night. When they saw me, they exchanged looks that said everything. Jamie's going to get attention. We picked up Kara, then headed to Stars. We found a table, and within minutes the wave began. Men drifting over, smiling, asking, hopeful. I felt their eyes on me, and strangely enough, liked it. One guy asked me to dance. He was tall, strong, with a playful grin. We moved together easily, his hand warm on my back. When his arm slid lower in that bold, familiar way boys try when the music gets slow, something in me tingled with a newfound confidence. But I guided his hand back up with a gentle touch. A boundary, warm but firm. "Let's go outside," he murmured in my ear. "I can't, Jeff," I whispered back, steady but kind. I returned to the table to a chorus of teasing. "Jamie, you let that one escape." I only laughed, soft, knowing, in control. The next morning, Kara and I had breakfast. "Jamie, that outfit? Legendary. And Jeff? I almost had him until you stepped in." I blushed, refusing to confess how his closeness had actually made me feel. "I'm not cheating on Mark," I told her. "But I'm also not confirming anything." Saturday night, Mark picked me up, and I was more than ready to see him. A movie, burgers, and finally, inevitably, Promontory Point. Something about being with him now felt deeper, more aligned with the person I was becoming. My emotions ran high and unfamiliar, and when his touch grew tender and exploratory, I didn't pull away. I let myself feel it. The warmth, the closeness, the validation. Nothing graphic, nothing rushed. Just two teenagers discovering each other gently, cautiously, like stepping into warm water. A moment that told me I wasn't pretending anymore. Mark didn't care about what I used to be, only who I was with him. As the weeks passed, my world expanded. I installed the new computer system at work, reorganized the salon's files, and slowly became the tech backbone of the entire business. Vanessa noticed, even praised the way I carried myself. More fluid, more assured, more myself. That's when she called my mother. Within a few weeks, I became Jamie Lynn Benson, legally. Vanessa's connections quietly updated my school records. When the year started, I walked into school simply as myself. No explanation, no questions, no shadow of who I'd been. Even Megan could only stare when she saw me in the girls' locker room, then turned and walked away. Rumor finally dying its overdue death. Dad became protective to an almost comical degree, but it was just love in another form. And while I worked at the salon through the co-op program, Vanessa slowly, carefully helped guide me further. With medical supervision, I began hormone therapy. The changes were subtle at first: sensitivity, softness, a shift in my silhouette. Then, by Christmas, Dr. Marie removed the old enhancements because my body had taken over on its own. I wasn't quite a B cup yet, but close. And looking at the women in my family, I suspected nature would take care of the rest. By the time graduation arrived, the only step left on the path to fully becoming a woman was one I'd face when I was older, ready and truly certain. But that is another story.